Kuphi nakuphi emakhaya emadolobheni ke naseComplasta khona ke sesifikile lehlelo lakho ilungelo lakho luhlelo kulo liphathela tindzaba debathengi letisematheni mina ke ngisimpiwe Ngcongwane asasingena endzabeni yethu namhla Bekunene umthetho ke washwele wetikweneti losayinwe kulamalanga lengcile utawutakula batsengi labanyenti elubishini letikweneti lebet bahlale ensanyeni kepha ke umkhakha wemabhange uthi ke lokhu kutawenda ukuthi kube madima phela ukuthi batsengi baboleke imali ngalokutako yebo ke mbukeli once again consumers drowning in debt have been thrown a lifeline. The credit amendment bill recently signed into law paves the way for over-indebted consumers to have their debts cleared. But the banking sector thinks that such a bailout will make life very, very difficult for the low-income consumers to access credit in the future. Vuyisile mdoda usiphatheleke nakumbiko.
Ukuhlangula amaziko antyumantyumbeka ematyaleni ayilolungelo elibekelwe indawo ezifana no-Eskom okanye i-South African Airways kuphela. Ngokwembono zikarhulumente nabantu banelungelo lokuxhamla xa imeko yezoqoqosho inyanzelisa. Kwiintsuku nje ezimbalwa edluleyo kuphunyezwe umthetho i-National Credit Amendment Act. Lo mthetho wasungulwa njengekhaka lokukhusela abathengi abagaxeleke ematyaleni ikuya kuba nzima kakhulu ukuba umntu azikhuphe kuwo. UMzantsi Afrika lelinye lamazwe apho abantu abaninzi basarhola imivuzo ephantsi kakhulu. Le meko yenza kube nzima ukuphila yaye umvuzo wahamba ungakwazi ukuzifeza iimfuno kunye neminqweno yabaninzi. Kulapho imali-mboleko okanye ukuthenga ityala kungena khona. Kwesi sithuba ibhanka kunye namanye amaziko zikhweba bonke abo basokolayo nabafuna imali. Into eye ibethe abaninzi kuxa besahluleka ukuyibuyisela. Xa ifunwa akusahlekwa. Kufunwa intlawulo okanye umntu uba semngciphekweni ukulahlekelwa impahla yokugqibela yakhe yexabiso. Le meko ayibasithelanga abasemagunyeni. Yiyo loo nto kukho iindlela ezithile zokukhusela abathengi abatshone abavela nangonwele ematyaleni. Zaziwa njenge-debt counselling okanye i-debt review. Kodwa ukuze uxhamle kwiinkonzo zale nkqubo kufuneka ukuba uyaphangela wamkela umvuzo ukwinqanaba elithile. Ba umvuzo wakho ungaphantsi kakhulu usengxakini. Imbi yokuphelelwa yitorho ungekawagqibi amatyala akho. Lo mthetho omtsha uzama ukuvala eso sikhewu. Enye yendlela yokwenza oko kwenza indlela yokuba umntu acinyelwe onke amatyala akhe okanye anqunyanyiswe ixesha eliqingqiweyo. Ayiphelanga apho, kukho imiqathango. Ingaba le miqathango ithi ngubani uzawukwazi ukuxhamla kule nyweba? Nini? Kuvuyisile mdoda, ilungelo lakho.
Asibonge ukuvizela mdoda ngalo mbiko. Nyaluke kukhuluma ngekuthi ke ngubaphi labathengi labatawuhleliselwa tikweleti tabo nekuthi ke kunamthelo muni. Asisimukele ke Mabatho Senyarelo uvela ke National Credit Regulator sitawuphinde sibe naye na Gerald Mondiambira ke he'll be joining us shortly. Yena ke uyi-wealth management expert. Sisimabatho sawubona sekumule hlelo kunjani?
Yabona Siphiwe.
Okay, asichazele kabanti ke ukuthi yini le debt relief bill?
Basically Siphiwe, debt relief bill it's about like national credit regulator, or let me say the trade and industry. Ifuna ukuvala lesikhali lesi sabantu laba bathola ukuthi they've got a lot of debts, they're in a debt trap, but they cannot afford ukuthi bayosebenzisa i-debt counselor or ummeli yabo ukuthi abazobasiza ngama-arrangements nama-bank. So basically this act is going to assist abantu low income earners. Labantu bazohola if awuholi from 0 rand to 7,500 with unsecured debt of up to 50,000 rands, not more than 50,000 rands. So sibheka labantu labo ngoba kaningi they can't afford to go to a debt counselor. So Tina, as the National Credit Regulator, will be basically a debt counselor for bona for free.
Okay.
So that is basically what the debt relief bill is about.
Now ukhuluma nge-debt counselor usho ukuthi ndaba advisor lokuthi behlisa tikweneti by X amount of money or nesiclearisha lesikweneti nje totally.
Okay, i-debt counseling yona esebenza nje. So kwenzakalani uma uneyikweleti and then unemali nyane ukuthi uyayihola. then sizobheka ukuthi if siya ama-bank or labantu uthola imali kubo like ama-credit providers sizokhulumisana nabo sithi okay uma bathu so akakhona ukubhadala i-200 rands but she can only pay 500 rand, can we rearrange the debt? So that's the first step. So there's different steps here before write-off. So that's the first step. Rearrangement. Sibheka ukuthi are you going to be able to pay some money towards your debt? Because we're not encouraging ama-consumer ukuthi bacanga ukuthi bangahamba bayokhipha imali or bayenze ikweleti eziningi bazi ukuthi mabacede zizovalwa. No, it's not going to work that way. Second step, if abantu abanye like I mean right now we've got a economic climate where a lot of people are unemployed. So ufika ukuthi bosebenza kahle wathatha ikweleti kahle usebenza manje you find yourself ukuthi now you can't afford to pay your debts anymore. We're going to request our credit providers nama bank suspend for 2 years. Angithi le 2 years leyo siyabheka ukuthi are you not going to get another job now? So le 2 years leyo isho ukuthi i-interest ngeke ichargiwe lapho for 2 years. So basically if I'm owing a certain bank 5,000 rands ngeke bazocharge i-interest for those 2 years. If siyabona ukuthi after that 2 years you're still not getting employed, we still have to take it to a court, sibiza i-National Consumer Tribunal. So each tribunal, like they're going to look at your circumstances again, and then they will decide whether it's going to be written off. So it's a long process. It's just not if we are qualifier, meaning that if you earn 7,500 and lower, and equalities are less than 50,000, automatically it's a write-off. And in addition to that, there's also going to be financial literacy. Okay. So it means that you're not going to just qualify, you have to go through a financial literacy course.
Is it a must?
It's a must. Okay. It's a prerequisite of this program because there's no point that you're getting assistance to say that, okay, now we're going to help you solve your problems, equalities, but yet again you're going to continue with the same behavior. Okay. It's very important that we see that the behavior, like we are trying to rehabilitate our consumers. That's where the problem is. Abantu, they don't understand how to actually use debt.
You know, you are raising something that wasn't in the public domain. You talk of suspension of the debt for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Is this what it is? Noma totally.
No, that's why I can call it 3 steps. First step is debt rearrangement. Like at least they're getting some income. So they'll be able to pay imali right now, they are not even earning an income. So those will be our unemployed consumers that will be coming to the NCR for assistance. Okay. So labo sithi okay sizobheka ukuthi within the 2 years are you not going to get any employment? If you don't get any employment, clearly it means that you still can't afford your debt. That's why CTC vala for 2 years. That time we are trying to say let's
nakuphela lo 2 years solo angakaqashwa solo angisebenzi then siyacinywa lesikweleti
total. Then we go to the tribunal, a court. So the tribunal, we as the National Credit Regulator will be presenting our case. Situspiwe was unemployed in 2017. It's 2019, he's still not employed. The debt was suspended for 2 years. We've reevaluated, he's still unemployed. As a result, we're requesting Consumer Tribunal that you write it off. So that's the last resort. Okay. So there's all sorts of steps that go in before that last resort. So a lot of consumers, once you qualify, it's a write-off. No, it's not.
So if during the period of 2 years, what do I do?
Then you come back to us and then we rearrange. We assist you to rearrange your debt. Now you've got an income.
So if I don't come to you and I'll wait for that 2 year period, how would you be able to ascertain if I've been employed?
We will ascertain eventually because we can check with the Department of Labor, and there is also a consent form that you'll be signing with the National Credit Regulator to say if you falsify information, it's subject to criminal offense. You can be imprisoned. So we are well aware that there will be people that will come here and give us some information and not all. But we can check with the bureaus, we can check with other alternative means to actually ensure that if we are saying this, then we will also be able to verify. We're not going to just take your word, but we're also going to have consent forms that say that everything that you say here is truthful and honest, because we don't want to find ourselves thinking, I'm a bank, they say, but this person is not telling the truth. So we're also going to make sure we take the necessary steps before we can actually do anything with consumers.
So laba ke labaqashwe in the informal sector, how are you going to be able to ascertain whether they're employed or not?
Ganingi, even when they go for like credit providers, it's including former credit providers, bank. So they usually would take that like envelope or so that's how we're going to ascertain. But we are also going to rely heavily on our consumers, ukuthi nabo bakhuluma iqiniso. And that's why I think the income so far, it's so less. Abantu abaningi, we did a lot of public hearings, bafuna ukuthi iye phezulu, but we kept it at 7,500 because we're also looking at the minimum wage and our lowest income earners for now. So those people, we know most of them are in the informal trade. We know ukuthi there'll be abomama bethu that are cleaning, or ababa bethu that are working in gardening and all of those things. So inkinga yethu lapho ukuthi labantu laba yibo that find themselves in a debt trap. They go back to umashonisa bayele nale because every time mabathi bayahola imali yabo iyaphela. So we are trying to close that gap to say that let's assist them and also educate them on top of that.
Okay. Nawe ke mbukeli ungaba ke ingcenye lohlelo ke la namhlanje ukushela icingo ku 0117146918 noma ke 0117146919 ungasibhalela futhi na SMS ku 33271 noma ke usithumele ke email ku consumer@sabc.co.za kanti ke sikhona futhi na ku Facebook na ku Twitter kanye lokho asathatha likhefu siyabuya khona nyalo. Namhlanje bekunene sibuka ukuthi ishwele loniketwe ke bathengi utawuba namthelela muni kubathengi labafuna ukuboleka imali ngalokudako. Istudio ke sinaye ke i-guest ke lechamwa NCR sinababatho senyarelo siphinde ke sibe na Gerald Mondiambira yena ke uchamwa Savings Institute. Babe Mondiambira, let me welcome you to this discussion. We talk about what kind of debt relief the new bill will have on consumers. What is your take on this bill?
Look, I think the bill is the right thing in terms of what is necessary. Because remember, we're coming out of an environment where there was also reckless lending. So as much as people are highly indebted, a lot of the people who are highly indebted, it was not their fault. In some instances, it was an act of reckless lending where the lender could tell that this person maybe cannot afford this debt, but because they wanted to advance the credit, they continued. Or there's also the other side of which is the consumer education, where people simply didn't know better. So it's the right thing because we're looking at the people who earn probably the lowest income bracket, and they're highly indebted in debts which would, in many instances, consume even up to 3/4 of their annual salary. So it's the right thing to do in terms of the government taking an intervention. But in terms of how it will affect South Africa, it's going to have multiple unintended consequences as well.
So you are against it?
No, I'm definitely for it because I think that it's necessary. It's the right income bracket and it's the right behavior. And as my colleague was saying earlier before, there are steps and interventions to prove that you deserve the debt relief. It's not a blanket act. So a lot of the people who've been reading the papers and the media think it's automatic that because I earn less than 7.5 and I've got 50K debt, I'm sorted. No, there is a process. It goes hand in hand with the National Credit Amendment Act, which was already in force, which basically says that there are processes. You have to go through debt counseling. There are processes in which you are vetted to ensure that you're telling the truth, etc. And that's the part we really need most people to understand, that it's not automatic.
Okay. He's saying that it's not automatic, and he took us through all the steps towards the ultimate step of debt relief. Now, what really necessitated this intervention by NCR?
I think because the National Credit Regulator looks at the credit industry as a whole, we do see gaps. Like that, okay, there's a certain income bracket that is not actually getting any assistance in terms of debt relief, in terms of negotiating with credit providers. So that's why they always end up falling into the informal sectors where they are charged more, or the IDs are taken and the bank cards are taken as well. So that is what we're also trying to assist with. That's why we're saying the National Credit Regulator will just be like a debt counselor. Debt counseling has been available for those that can afford it. But if you cannot afford it, then a debt counselor won't be able to assist you because it's also a business for them. So if they cannot, they will not be able to do that for you if ever you don't have the income to pay them. Hence, NCR has taken up that to say that they will be like the debt counselor for the low-income earners. So basically, at least those people must also be catered for. You understand? They also are a very integral part of our economy, and it's very important that we also just teach each other how to actually spend our money.
So am I correct to assume ukuthi lo mthetho lona ufavor consumers, but it's working against service providers? Because nangabe lo mthetho vele sowucishiwe after 2 years, or nangabe lesikweleti sicishiwe emva kweminyaka lemibili, then they lose. Credit providers, they lose.
I think, as my colleague has also mentioned earlier on, that thing of reckless lending and all those other issues. Also, there's a difference here. National Credit Regulator, yes, is for the protection of consumers. But I think at the end of the day, also the credit providers must also look at, they know that there's a business risk when you're giving a low-income earner who can't afford the debt initially, that money. What you're doing is just putting that person in a debt trap because they'll be borrowing from A to give to B. So that's not
so you do agree with the but lose credit providers?
I don't think they will lose as such. I think that it's something that they should have foreseen that putting these people in this debt would result in certain unintended consequences or risks that they face themselves. But some
credit providers have got a very low appetite for risk. So having said that, they will then refrain from giving out credit to low-income earners.
I think that there will be credit providers that will still have an appetite to give our low-income earners the debt. We have over 9 million low-income earners that may, if the application has been approved, to benefit from this. So at the end of the day, credit providers only look at everything from the business side of it. What about the consumer side of it? There's also that issue that we must always take into consideration. We can look at what business say they're going to lose, but at the end of the day, we've got consumers that are heavily indebted, that end up being in depression, end up owing so much that they can't even survive, they can't even buy basic necessities. So as the regulator, we feel that even the income that we're talking about, it's low, very low. We're not looking at high-income earners or middle class. We're looking at low-income earners.
Okay, Gerald, even if bayalose there's some risk associated with giving out credit.
That's what a bank does. It assesses risk and it lends out money. I think we also need to put things into context. In many instances, the banks write off this money anyway. It's not the big people who they chase. Because often for a bank, the legal process of chasing 50,000 Rand is almost the same in terms of costs to the bank. So these are people who normally the banks traditionally would write off without even 2 sentences. So we mustn't make it look like the banks are losing out on this debt. And also, remember, it's debt relief. We're not writing off the debt. It's debt relief. So there is a process by which we want these people to be rehabilitated and indeed to pay back what they owe. And there is a process in place to allow that, or those regulations are being crafted. So it's not an automatic debt cancellation. But from the banking perspective, this does not represent by any means a significant part of their lending. Most of the money banks advance is to people who earn more money and to corporates. So I understand the banks who are saying that, look, last year we had 50 billion of impaired credit, etc. But that out of that 50 billion, the banks and the Banking Association needs to tell us how much of it actually is in this lowest income segment. You'll find it's probably 1 or 2 or 3 billion. It's not a huge segment in terms of the lending market. We need to protect those who are vulnerable financially, and we need to start getting these people rehabilitated. You find that it's an opportunity for another financial player to take advantage of that segment. We have one of the banks which has grown phenomenally in recent years, which focused on that exact segment which the traditional big banks were not interested in. So if they step out, trust me, in normal market forces, someone else will get a business model which works, because they do deserve to receive credit and they do deserve to have that dignity of saying, look, they've made mistakes and they can be rehabilitated.
All right, let's take our first caller. Sinameiwa ulapha ke Mlazi eNatal. Sekumole ehlweni sawubona.
Yebo Ndwani.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila nami. Thank you so much guys for the show, because ekugcineni sibona sengathi asisakwazi ukuya phambili. Actually my question is, I was also under a debt review. Ngaya kuyona reason thing ngifuna ukuthi ngisizakale.
Okay.
So I went through them, but assist and all of that. Babanikeza ama details ami and all of that. Please don't get essentially ukuthi it's the last resort. So nami ngasengibona ukuthi angisakwazi ukuphila. So base bazama ukungisiza. Bathi manje ngisiza umuntu wayengi-assista wafaka ama-banking details wami wrong, of which le nyanga le ababethi bazodebhisa ngayo le mali le abayishoyo they didn't. So it went through for about 3 months kwenzeka lokho. Kabathani ngahamba kaye banking ngathi ngicela ukuphindela emuva ngikhokhele izikweletu zami, because they keep on phoning me phela kule tolo lezi engikweletayo. So at the end of the day, angizange ngize ngisizakale. and ndaphindela ngayoyikhokhelela iy'kweletu zami, and then manje I'm fine, I can manage to pay ama-credit fund, but the problem is I can't move on empilweni because wherever I go, that I'm under a debt review while estate did not help me.
Okay, still bombe kancane ngathi khona bafuna ukubuta ke internet la.
I think that's a common plight of many South Africans where, you know, the process of being put on debt review probably needs to be tweaked, because a lot of debt review companies and debt counselors automatically put the flag on your name just through a phone call. And that's not right. And often what happens is they'll call you and say, are you interested in lowering your debt payments? We can help you. We'll send you the forms. And all you say is yes. And some unscrupulous companies in this sector, automatically the moment you say yes, they go into your ID number and they put that flag of debt review, regardless of whether the process is then followed through in terms of you applying. And remember, it's a court process. So it should actually happen only when the court has looked at your finances and the debt counselor agrees with the clerk of the court to say, look, this person should qualify for debt review.
So how would you advise Umeyi manje?
Well, look, I would advise her that she needs to seek legal counsel or to afford her case to the NCR, who can look at it on its merits and speak to the debt review company, because they will need to provide evidence as to how this person was put on debt review without the due process happening. So the process is there, but unfortunately some companies admittedly are taking a shortcut in terms of saying on a phone call, they put you on debt review, and it's damaging the whole intended purpose and spirit of the National Credit Amendment Act, which is to protect the consumer who's highly indebted.
Right. Meyiwa ngiyathemba ukuthi usitagele ke meyiwa lapha eMlazi siyabonga kakhulu ukusishayela. Khumbula ke mbukela ukuthi ke akusiyo okwekuqala ke bathengi baniketwa ke shwele lofana nalo. Uke wamthola shwele ngaphambilini? Sishayele ke licingo ukusitshela ukuthi lokho kwayishintsha kanjani impilo yakho. Asisiphinde futhi sihlanganyele emva kwaleli khefu. Over-indebted consumers have every reason to celebrate following a law that allows for certain debts to be wiped off. But the credit industry says this law could spell disaster for the low-income earners. Uke wesulelwa isikwenete ngaphambilini, and ngabe ke lokho kwayishintsha kanjani impilo yakho? Sishayela ke licingo noma ke usithumele i-SMS, ungasibhalela futhi na ku Facebook, sikhona futhi na ku Facebook, na ku Twitter. The numbers are on your screens right now. Now, Gerald, before we went to that ad break, we had a caller, Umeyiwa from KwaZulu-Natal. She raised a very, very important issue which has affected so many South Africans. So my question is, labo ku debt review, do they qualify for this bill?
Unfortunately, the law is not retrospective, so it doesn't look backwards. So once the law is passed, remember it's still a bill, when the law and the act is enacted, it will only take effect from the date of the Government Gazette. That hasn't happened, but unfortunately for those
So if it is ultimately passed and gazetted, would they qualify then under
No,
debt review?
unfortunately. Someone who is in that situation now where maybe they do earn less than 7,500, but they're already under a process of either debt review or perhaps they've already had a default judgment against them, it won't apply. You can't apply it backwards. It's going to benefit those people in that position today who basically can take advantage of the new law. And remember, there are going to be processes, so it's not automatic. You'd have to follow through in terms of contacting the NCR, going through whatever steps are necessary to prove that indeed you are highly indebted and qualifying, and also go through that process of consumer education in terms of saying that, you know, you've also done your part in educating yourself that you don't end up in that situation again.
Yeah, Mabato uyamvumela.
Yes, I do agree with Gerald. And I mean, when I started earlier on, ngishilo nje ukuthi le process learner is going to assist those consumers that are not able to get any assistance. So if you are under debt review, automatically it means ukuthi you took that route ukuthi uzofuna assistance through a debt counselor. Just because city is 7,500, we didn't necessarily mean ukuthi 7,500 leyo ukuthi wonke umuntu who earns about that much won't afford these other recourses. Sometimes abantu abanye bayabona ukuthi ngale mali encane nginayo, I'd rather go to a debt counselor, like usisi Meyiwa sashilo ukuthi that helped when she tried to pay off her debts a certain way, then it assisted her. You might find she was also earning less. So if ever you already have a recourse, then you cannot still use that. It's like now you are uvalela abanye that need the assistance that the NCR will be providing.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We've got another caller. Sinalo Mcebo kulapha eProtea Glen. Sakumole hlelo sawubona.
Hello, Baba Njani.
Siphilile mama kunjani?
Ngiyaphila. Mina nje bengibuza ngifuna ukubuza. Kwesinye isikhathi uma u-applyela for i-loan ni
Yeah.
bathi kune insurance fee ofanele ukuthi ibhadalele. Le insurance fee leyo iyenzela ukuthi uma ngabe ulahlekelwa umsebenzi awusasebenzi and then bayakubhadalela isikoloto sakho siyaphela. So ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi iyasebenza nayo leyo ndlela leyo ngoba ngiba usithi athi kunaleyo yokuthi ungasasebenzi bayakunika i-period of 2 years ukuthi uthole umsebenzi.
Yes.
Ngizokwazi ukuthi kusebenza kanjani. There's a other way around. Kunezindlela ezi-2 or it's only one way.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that, Mabato?
Yes, Sinomncebo, i-insurance le bakhuluma ngayo, it's called credit life insurance. Isebenza kanjani? Uyayibhadala mawuthatha isikweleti that if you're unemployed, but then you must be retrenched, not dismissed. And then maybe uba ne-disability or maybe you pass away. Then that insurance is obhadala isikweleti sakho. But not all credit providers bayayisebenzisa, abanye abayisebenzisi. So you might find wena maybe uthathe i-loan ne-bank engakuchargeanga le credit life insurance. So ngeke babhadale. But then if you find yourself ukuthi you had a credit provider that actually ubobhadala le credit life insurance leyo, then bazobhadala le sikweleti sakho. Leyo umthetho, that's how it works, like that insurance lo khuluma ngayo.
And also
Okay.
Yeah.
And also just to add, credit life does not affect unaffordability. So credit life affects retrenchment, disability or death. And it's very specific. And a lot of people think that because I can't afford it anymore, they must just use the insurance because I'm paying. No, you're still alive. You haven't been retrenched and you haven't passed on. So it doesn't work like that. There isn't an insurance policy which works and protects you from being over-indebted. Unfortunately, you'd need to follow the processes through the National Credit Regulator for protection in that instance.
All right. Nomcebo, siyathema ukuthi sitakele kulolu hlangothi. Siyabonga kakhulu kusishayela. That was Nomcebo ke ulapha ke Protea Glen. Now, Gerald, earlier on you had said ukuthi this write-off is probably insignificant to the big banks. I mean, R1 lost is one too many, because they're running a business after all. So won't this disadvantage the would-be lenders? Because the banks will be trying to protect themselves from haphazard lending.
Look, I think it's been in the media. The BASA Banking Association has said that, look, it's going to decrease our appetite for low-income earners. And indeed, yes, that's the business decisions that they need to make. But in the same breath, I can easily point out a number of large listed companies who owe far more billions than they're talking about now to those very same banks, and they're not saying we will stop lending to big companies. So we need to take it into perspective in terms of the amounts involved versus other amounts which the banks are probably incurring and losing in much bigger corporate failures which are happening. I think we need balance in how we talk about these things, because we need to have sensitivity for our lower income earners. They deserve dignity. They deserve to be treated with respect. And with all due respect to the banks and the financial lenders, the amounts which we are talking about here are far less than a Steinhoff or some of the bigger companies which have failed, which those exact banks are glad to lend to. The banks need to take responsibility in terms of them also being involved in reckless lending. One of the things which is lacking in South Africa is a centralized system which they could easily implement, where they can see in one view who's lending to who and who's applying where. They don't do it. Why? That's the question. These are consumer questions. I'm being an advocate for the consumers now to say, look, I ended up in debt. I didn't know I would be in debt. But how come you have not done enough to make yourselves know where I stand? In other countries of the world, you cannot apply for a loan with 2 banks without them knowing. Whereas in South Africa, it's quite possible to take out 4 loans on the same day, at the same time, and they'll all advance that amount to you. And these are the things we need to start saying. If the banks are saying they're going to be hurt by this happening, they also need to start putting in the systems in place which will allow them to mitigate against this risk in the future.
All right. Asiphinze ke sithatha linye likhefu ke bekunene, siyabuya khona nyalo. Lelike Yilungelo Lakho bekunena siphinde sikwamukele futhi sasihleti naye ke Mabatho Senyarelo lovela ke National Credit Regulator sinaye futhi na Gerald Mondiambira yena ke uyi-wealth management expert basichazela ukuthi ke lo shwele ngabe ke utaba namthelela muni kubathengi i-National Credit Relief Bill. Gerald, just before during that ad break, we were discussing about the implications of whether this bill will undermine the principle of honoring financial and contractual agreements.
Well, look, every financial obligation needs to be honored. So this is not saying that cancel all your financial contracts and celebrate. No. Yes, in principle, the law still stands. The bank can go to the courts. They can get you listed. But that's why there's a process. It's not a blanket debt cancellation. It's a debt relief process. And then where the bank cannot
How can they get me listed if this is provided for by the law?
No, the law is simply saying your debt is suspended for 2 years. Okay. At which point they can then seek legal recourse to either get that debt, a judgment against you. That process will and still can
So
happen.
why would they list me within the 2-year period of suspension?
After.
Or it is after?
After the 2-year period, your debt was suspended, you can't pay it off, the bank is going to be forced to write it off.
Okay.
In order to balance their books, a write-off needs to go with a court judgment. Okay. So you will still be listed in 2 years. It's a debt suspension, it's not a debt cancellation. Okay. So that's important for the viewers right now to understand. It's not automatic debt is gone. It's a suspension to give you 2 years to sort yourself out and trying to make a plan to start repaying that money. If after 2 years you are not in a position to start repaying that money, the bank will continue with their normal legal processes in which they can secure a judgment against you so that it's recorded under your name in the courts that you still owe them this amount of money because of this process. So it's not a shortcut. This is necessary and will happen. And the spirit of respecting and honoring financial contracts is there. That's why the National Credit Regulator is there, that the contracts are still enforced. It's not saying people run away. It's saying we're giving you breathing space. We're acting as your advocate to protect the consumer. That's what the NCR is doing. But in the process where things go wrong, everything fails, the legal process will still be followed.
As I mentioned earlier on, this is banks and credit providers are running a business, so they can't always be playing into the debt relief bills, or if it eventually is, put into an act. So, doesn't it provide, or rather, provide a red flag? Good say, yabona lona, his debt has been cleared because abengafuni ukubhatala noma akakhoni ukubhatala ngeke saphinde simboleke futhi.
I don't think it does because before this debt relief, we always had debt cancelling. And even with debt cancelling, there was a lot of pushback from the banks in terms of how it's going to work. And debt cancelling has relieved a lot of consumers that were finding themselves in a lot of debt spiral. So the same token will apply in this particular case with the debt relief. And in addition, consumers must understand that when they are under this debt relief program, they will also be flagged on like they cannot go by yothatha amalona amanye. They will be flagged, so they won't necessarily easily go. You are under this thing, and then manje you can just go and take out other loans. You've got this protection. No, there's steps that the NCR is going to take and be strict about in terms of what's going to happen. Because the point that we're trying to make here is not they must be written off, but for people to be rehabilitated. That's the main intention of this legislation.
Okay. Sinangibuleko kulapha ke Natal sekumukele hleleni sawubona.
Yebo baba njani?
Siphilile kunjani baba?
Siyaphila. No bani futhi mina ngifuna ukuzwa lapha manje ngeke ngaba ne loan eNetbank ne if I'm not mistaken it was 2010 ne? Are you still there?
Yeah. Khuluma nathi.
So into eyenzakalayo ngibe sengiluza umsebenzi nekusho ukuthi icompany le ngaxosha because kwaba nezinye inkinganyana zokule emsebenzini so ngaxosha emsebenzini thereafter. I went to the bank and I told them that angisakhona ukubhadara ke because angisasebenzi manje. Then balokhu bengilandelela ke bethi ke angikhokhe lokho engikutholayo noma kuncane bagcina bathi no even I can pay you 100 rand a month, that will be fine for them. Then kwathola ukuthi angikutholi konke lokho, then kwanyamalala emva kwesikhashana. There was a people aba-advertise kuma newspapers ne bathi bangama debt counselors ne. Okay. So I called one of them and then bathi ke angifake imali engango 3,000, they would clear my name ku credit bureau, and then I did that. So emva kwalokho kwanyamalala kwathuleka isikhathi, then I thought ngiclear then ngathola omunye umsebenzi futhi ngaya kwaLouis ngathatha ifurniture nyana laphana kaLouis. So after mangithatha ifurniture then kwahamba wathola I was working for a law firm, so kwathola ukuthi ngazathi kunama problem ku financial lapha ku law firm. Then ngahamba ngabatshela ukuthi hayi no madoda athi sekunenkinga laphana ku law firm lengisebenza kuyo. Nabo balokhu bengilandelela until ngalwa ke cause kwi-contract yethu kokubhala ukuthi there is an insurance ezokwazi ukuthi ngi-assist if sengihluleka ukwenza ama-payments ne.
Okay.
So then into ezakalayo ngithe mangabe kuqhubeka isikhathi belokhu bengilandelela one day lapha sagcina sixabana ke nabo ke ngabakhumbuza i-contract engayisayina ke then kwaba yilapha abangiyekela khona ke bahlukana nami ke. So manje ngixakwa ukuthi manje okay bangi-blacklistile nabo ngizwile after lokho ukuthi I'm blacklisted. Into engixaka manje sengilokhu ngilandela yilaba abase-Nedbank futhi ukuthi kanti kwenzakalani ngempela, is there anything engingangi-assista ngayo in this kind of a regard?
So eNedbank awuzange ubatshela lokuthi no mina ngambhadala 3,000 so that igama lami libe cleared?
Azange ngikhona ukuthi ngiphinde ngikhulume nabo because ibhenki engangikulo ngangise-Krugersdorp by then, and then ngabuya ke ngeza ngapha eNewcastle manje ukuluza kwami umsebenzi ngabuya azohlala ngapha eNewcastle ekhaya.
Okay, sicela ubambe kancane ngathi bafuna khona la bafuna ukusharisha nawe.
But Yilungelo
Yebo.
So basically igama lakho ngeke liclearishwe from the bureau umuntu omunye except le credit provider bothatha imali kuyo, and the only way izoclearishwa ngakhona ukuthi if ubhadale ikweleti zakho. So for example if bokweleta imali ethize maybe 10,000 rand maqeda ukubhadala esikweleti leso, the credit provider njengosho ukuthi Nedbank bebazosenda incwadi to the bureaus to write to remove you. Akuna company that can just remove you from the bureaus, number one. So I'm sorry about that. Ngathi imali yakho ihambe mahala. But the other issues that you are raising ngoba ziningi kakhulu, I would advise ukuthi uthathe ama contact details wethu la NCR then usicontact ngoba kunezinto sizokubuza zona. For instance sizofuna i-statements zakho ukuthi nathi sibhekisise kahle ukuthi kwenzakaleni, kufike kanjani ukuthi ube la ukhona ngoba ngathi into edala yenzakala lena yabona. So nathi sifuna ukwazi so sizokhuluma nebhanki kahle ke sibabuze nabo ukuthi nina nenzeni ever since ubhunkuleka nekweleti nani. Okay.
And I think also there's another step which many viewers can take. Then there's a place called the National Credit Ombudsman. The National Credit Ombudsman deals with disputes regarding credit between somebody who's borrowed, someone who's lent. So if you have a problem, I would also say try and put your case to the National Credit Ombudsman. The National Credit Ombudsman will act like an advocate for or a judge or a mediator between yourself and the company which you owe, in this case the bank you've named, and then they will bring both parties together to produce evidence, and the National Credit Ombudsman can then make a judgment, and that judgment is binding on either side. So where we can, if we have disputes, also besides approaching the National Credit Regulator, you can also go through the National Credit Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman can also assist you in these cases. In the case of paying someone to clear your name, that doesn't happen, doesn't exist. That's just criminals enjoying your money.
So it is illegal?
It's not even illegal. It's criminals who put adverts in papers and say, we'll clear your name. Already this morning I received an SMS or an email saying, you qualify for automatic debt relief. Okay? And wafuni mali. And you heard, this is the National Credit Regulator next to me. She hasn't mentioned, Nika, I must give a volumlomo or anything. Yet, there's already SMSs and emails going around saying you qualify for automatic debt relief. Reject those messages. Wherever you are requested to pay for a service, be very careful. Always check with the National Credit Regulator. There's a lot of fraudsters out there who are now targeting the very people who want to be protected by this debt relief and saying, no, sneaky 300 rand or 400 rand, we sort it out for you. You sit at home and you enjoy. No, it doesn't work like that. There are a lot of people who are taking advantage of these developments.
Khumbulani ngebekunene kude ke inkampani litakutshela ukuthi ifuna imvula mlomo. Nangabe khona inkampani litakutshela ukuthi imvula mlomo baleka ushiye inyosi. Nyalo ke bekunene sesathatha careful sekugcina siyabuya khona nyalo.
Yilungelo
siyayicucumbela ke indzaba yethu ke namhla mbukeli sikhuluma ke nge-debt relief lo mtsetfo ke washwele lotawunika ke batsengi labanyenti. Let's take a look at some Facebook messages. Alright, Karabo Butle Uti, will this help young people who are unfairly blacklisted? Salmina Bengeni says, I've been not affording to pay my debt for 2 years now, and I don't even pick the lines as I'm very depressed about my situation and I don't even know where to go. Can I get help? When I check my credit score, it's 0. Rose says, what can I do if I owe bank money and I reported that I no longer work, but they keep increasing the loan amount, even if I pay when I get money? Bongmusa says, dear team, mina ke I'm under debt review. Ngangingasa kwazi ukukhokha ikweleti ngaya kuma agent akhokhelana ikweleti. Kodwa ke ngibona kufana nje installment engisikhokhayo. Ngabe umuntu uyakwazi yini ukupull out i-agreement nama debt reviewers? Pertinent questions there.
Yes, I think the first one is unfair listing. There's no such thing as unfair listing because for you to get a court judgment against you, it's a process. So when you enter into a credit agreement, you say, I'll pay you X amount on this day every month. If you don't make that payment for 90 days, they note you as a credit defaulter. You're now in default. At that point, they will contact you and start the legal process because you've now broken your financial contract. 90 days, no payment received. We're now going to the lawyers. At which point, they will send you summons. Again, when you receive your summons, you get another 20 days where you can answer those summons and say, I want to do a notice to defend, which means I want to speak to the magistrate and tell them my story. Or if you do not respond to your summons, which is what most people do, the biggest mistake most people do, they ignore the summons. And then automatically the bank or the lender or the person who's applied automatically gets what they call a default judgment. Default judgment means you did nothing. You're agreeing with everything they are saying, that you owe them and you don't want to pay them. Therefore, they then list your name. So for your name to end up with a judgment against it, there was a legal process followed. However, there are sometimes instances when things do go wrong, okay? And in that instance, that's why it's important when you get a summons, do a notice to defend. Also, there are sometimes instances where they are sending the summons to the wrong address. They are sending it to the wrong, they're calling the wrong number, you've changed numbers. Remember, under your financial contract, you're obligated to notify them of change of address and change of telephone number. So these are the ways you end up sometimes with this unfair listing happening towards you. The other lady who said that, look, she told the bank, I don't work anymore, yet they keep increasing the loan amount, adding interest, and when I can, I pay what I can. That's the problem. She's paying. Because every time she pays, she keeps that loan in force. Sometimes it's necessary that we accept that the legal process must go through. There are people, many people who've been listed.
But is it right of them to keep on increasing the loan amount?
Because she keeps paying. If she waits 90 days, if she waits for the summons, the debt will stop. It will stop increasing. They will go to the court and you can go to court and say to the magistrate, I can pay 10 rand forever. And then the court will tell the bank, Ubani Bani can only pay 10 rand.
I guess it's the lack of education because not so many people know, would say they have to wait for that 90 days. Mabato, your response to some of the queries?
Okay, in respect to the unfairly blacklisted, as Gerald has mentioned, you can't be unfairly blacklisted, but you might find you disputing the listing. So if you dispute the listing, you can actually contact our officers or the credit ombuds to actually assist you. Because sometimes there are people, fraud and other things happen in between where you find that your ID number was used by someone else and you had no idea. So you can actually take those steps to say that I'm disputing this. And I also advise our consumers that on an annual basis, we do get our credit reports for free from any credit bureau. So they should actually start doing that so that they can actually check what exactly is in their credit reports. Because that's also very important. And whatever you don't know in your credit reports, then you can actually also mention to say, no, but I don't know this, I never took out a loan. They will bring proof if you have taken out a loan. But if you haven't, then it will be removed from the listing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sinambali ulapha eKagiso sakumele hlelo Mbali sawubona?
Sawubona njani?
Siphilile mama kunjani?
Ngiyaphila.
Ukhuluma nathi mama.
Ngine question lana ne. I do have debts. And then some of them, they are handed over to what's this, debt collectors company.
Okay.
And they keep on adding charges. So I wanted to know if I get help from the NCR, and then if it happens with I'm not telling in that 2 years, and then they get to suspend them, will they keep on adding charges on my debt.
Are you still working, manje?
No, I'm not. It's been a year now.
Okay. Dr. Respect?
Bali, unfortunately, the law is not in place as yet. But if you find yourself that by the time that the law is in place and you still find yourself in the situation, you are most welcome to come to our offices so that we can actually assess your application first. In respect of debt collectors, the National Credit Regulator does not regulate debt collectors. However, usually when they give you calls or send you SMSs, they usually charge you on the debt because now the debt is no longer with the credit provider, maybe the bank that you took out the loan with. It's now with the debt collection company, and that's how they make money, unfortunately. But if you also want some advice, please take our contact details so that we can also just assist some way. Maybe we can find another way to assist you, not necessarily to write off, but to assist you to say what other means can you do to be able to actually get assistance.
Please remind us of the number again.
It's 0860
Yeah.
627
627
627.
627. Mbali lapha eKagiso sabakhulu kusishayela. Please make sure that you call this number 0860 627 627. The number is on your screens right now. Mbali eKagiso, thank you so much for your call. Bantu laba njengambali ke Mabato, would they be assisted when it comes to this? Because Gerald earlier on had said ukuthi lo mthetho lona will not be retrospective.
I think retrospective, what Gerald was meaning, because most of the times if you're under debt review, there was already a court order. With Mbali's case, it seems as if she's just unemployed. And she finds herself that she's still continuously being unemployed. Clearly, she can't afford to pay the debt.
Okay.
So she should be able to actually get some assistance from the NCR. But at that time, remember, we're still going to suspend and check if anything happens in Mbali's life that maybe she gets another employment. Okay. We're not necessarily encouraging people to sit at home and not get employment and then think after 2 years we will be written off. You understand? We're also going to take other steps to ensure that you don't do such things, because at the end of the day, you can't sit at home for 2 years and then waiting for a debt to write off. How are you going to survive?
Okay. So from what I've gathered from this conversation as you're wrapping up, Gerald, is that there's no free lunch. This is not mana. This is not Christmas. Bantu ke abangacabangi ukuthi ke batawuboleka imali bayidlaphatise baphindze babuyele futhi ebhangi baboleke bathembe ukuthi umthetho washwele i-National Credit Relief Bill itabasita. Just in wrapping, what's your final words?
I think yes, there's no free lunch and it is debt relief. So essentially what will happen probably after the act is in force is that there'll be two flags, one which says you're under debt review, one which says you're under debt relief. But there's a process and the law is designed to protect those who deserve to be protected. If you are someone who goes and borrows recklessly knowing you have no intention of paying back, you do not deserve to be under debt relief. So we're trying to find a balance in which those people who do deserve this relief can seek protection under the law, but also there are a lot of irresponsible borrowers out there.
Right.
And they also need to go through the normal process and be listed as a high risk because they don't look after their finances well.
Right.
From our side, we also just want to tell the listeners as well to say that even the credit providers, Labo, BASA and everybody else, that we're not going to do this only for the purpose of the consumers. We'll also do training for our credit providers. They understand what this law is about. The only thing they're seeing is that risk and then people not paying. But I think we'll also do the training so that they can have a better understanding that no, you'll still be able to borrow money, but we're just wanting this money to be borrowed wisely.
All right. Yeah. Gerald and Mabato, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Sifika kanjalo ke bekunene emaphethelweni elihlelo namhla sethemba ukuthi ke senicacisele kangcono ke ngalolu hlelo lwashwele. Many thanks to my studio guests for their valuable insights. Khumbula ke mbukele ukuthi ke tinhlelo tethu tiyaphindwa njalo ngabolesine nga-11 ebusuku. Kanti ke from Miss Mphiwe Ngwane and the rest of the team, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yilungelo